Hello everyone, my name is Cap and welcome back to the channel, another 7 Days to Die video. Now I'm doing all this on Alpha 16.4 on the PC and I'm going to be utilizing some traps, so I don't believe this is going to work on consoles as of this video. I had a suggestion from more than one person actually asking me to test whether or not traps could work with underwater zombies. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off just using a standard shotgun turret and to see if they will actually work with zombies underwater. I have one that's going to be pointing straight down into the water. I'm going to spawn in some zombies underwater, get them to walk over here and to see if it can target them through the water. And then I have one that's already underwater, and I'm going to bring in some zombies over there and see if this can target them underwater and shoot them properly underwater to see if the water has any effect on it. Because of course when you're swimming through it, you move like you're in molasses, you can barely move at all. But people have been wondering is whether or not it affects underwater traps and underwater electricity. So we're going to test that out in this video. Alright, so first I'm going to test the one that's above ground pointing down into the water to see if it'll target zombies while they're in the water or if it waits until they try to emerge from the water and see what they actually do. So I'm going to go into fly mode here so I can move a little quicker because the water is a little bit on the thick side. Let's see, I'm going to spawn in over here, get a couple zombies. Let's get our lovely assistant Sylvia and see if the shotgun turret will detect her and shoot her before she comes up out of the water or if it waits till she gets on the shoreline or not. So let's see what they actually do. Alright, so we got our zombie nurses, our assistants coming up here incredibly slowly. I am hunted, so they're heading this direction. Alright, so far, they're not too terribly far from the shotgun itself, and it's not shooting or anything at them yet. So we'll see what it actually does. And I do have the bullets locked, I do have ammo in it, and it is set to target zombies, so that won't affect it at all here. Okay, where y'all go? Y'all gonna try and take the less of the steep slopes? Hey, come over here. I need y'all to work with me. There we go. I like the way the gun sounds underwater. Alright, let me get out of the way of the turret here in case they do show up over here and this thing starts shooting at them. So far, they're close enough that a normal turret would start shooting at them at this point, but since they're underwater, we're not getting anything yet. So we'll continue to hang out here just long enough to see if they get close enough things for them to target it, or if the water does block the view of it. Let's see, starting to emerge from the water just a little bit. Getting a little bit closer. Interesting. So they had to at least be like head height above the water before this thing would even start shooting at them. So if you're trying to set up some sort of defenses using turrets, at least pointing towards the water system, it's not going to see them until they come up out of the water. Oh, that's interesting. Alright, so let me get this set up with the one that's already underwater and see if it can detect them in the same median. Alright, so we got the one set up over here. Everything's set up kind of the same way it was on this one. Have it pointing down this little hill here. I'm going to spawn in some more nurses and see if they will actually get targeted with this one under here or not. Alright, so let's get a couple more civilians in here. They are definitely coming towards me now. Let's see if the shotgun underwater will target them at all here. Alright, so far nothing. There we go. Okay, that's good to know. So as long as it seems to be within the same medium as far as like they're both underwater, it can target them. But it being able to see underneath the water is a no-go on that one. That's very interesting. Alright, so if you're going to set up an underwater turret system, just make sure your turrets are underwater or anything walking in underneath the water is going to be undetected. Alright, and now a quick follow-up to the shotgun turret underwater thing. So we know that it can't see them through the water, but what if we have a motion sensor set up underwater and see if that will detect the zombies enough to be able to tell the turret to go ahead and shoot. So, standard setup here, run the electricity through the camera. We have it set to zombies only underwater, instantly and triggered, and then run to the shotgun turret. So we can get a few of our zombie friends in here, see if this can be detected with the motion sensor here. Get a few Sylvias in here, and it looks like it. It looked like it didn't have any problems at all detecting them. It completely wrecked them, actually. Okay, so for those curious about whether or not motion sensors work underwater not to be able to target and see zombies, it does. It doesn't seem to have a problem at all. Okay, so let's try it over here on the other side. We've got the same setup, got the electricity going to the motion sensor, to the turret, both of them above water this time. We'll get some of our assistants in here and see if they can get detected before they pop their head up out of the water. Okay, so they should be close enough to be seen by the motion sensor, or let's see if it does the same thing it did with the turret by itself, and that it waited for them to pop their head up out of the water before it even tried to shoot at them. I'm thinking that's probably what's going to happen. That's obviously what's happening, since they are not getting detected even this close to the motion sensor. Alright. Motion sensor's on. And there we go. So once they get about chest high out of the water, then it's going ahead and targeting them. But prior to that, it cannot see them at all. So whether it's the turrets or the motion sensors themselves, they cannot see from out of the water into the water. That's really interesting. Very, very interesting. Alright, the next thing up that's worth trying out is whether or not electric fences will work underwater. Now, I've disconnected the turret, so I don't have to worry about them trying to shoot anything. But what I did was I just dug a single hole, ran an electric fence over here. I'm going to spawn in some nurses this direction, see if they walk up here, and we'll actually get electrocuted. Now, just to test to make sure it's actually working, you can see that I'm getting shocked, so it is actually functional underwater for the people that are kind of wondering whether or not it's even working at all, just in case it's a little bit wonky on trying to detect if the nurses are getting shocked or not. So, let's give this a try and see if any of them will run through this. We don't have to go too far because we don't want them to walk very far. Alright. Y'all come this direction and see if we can get you nice and electrocuted. And again, they're, doing some acrobatics. Stand up to the, get out. Let's see what happens here. I'm sure they're probably going to get electrocuted. If I'm going to make an early hypothesis that probably will shock them. Probably just like it does on the ground, but we shall see. We'll see if it completely affects them at all. Alright, well there we have it. That works. That works pretty good. And since they're moving really slow in the water, it's actually probably doing a whole lot more damage than it would to them on the ground here. Oh no, I'm almost dead. I think I touched the nurse and she accidentally electrocuted me, or I could have almost drowned too. So, we do know that electric fences do work pretty good underwater. And like I said, I do think they kind of work a little bit better because the zombies move so slow. Now, as you can see, these are some weak regular zombies and they didn't die from them at all. So, they're not the greatest defense in the world, but it will at least give you some sort of barrier if you have an underwater base. Interesting. Now, one thing I know what people want me to test out as well is whether or not the blade traps do work underwater, and they do. They work just like they do on land. It'll absolutely wreck anything that comes across it as long as you can put it on flat ground. Now, sometimes the ground underneath isn't so smooth that it won't put it on here, so you may have to throw a block in or dig a hole and dig something. Now, one thing I did notice that was kind of interesting, and it didn't do it both times, obviously. Over here, you see there's no problem at all. When I put this one over here and I turned it on, you can see it completely messed with the water source blocks. And so, if you're swimming along over here just trying to stay on top of it, since it messed with the source blocks, it's like dropping me underneath the water. You see how it's kind of pushing me inside of this? So it's kind of an interesting little dilemma here if you put it underwater. Although it could be kind of cool because anything swimming underneath it would be, sucked right into it. So it kind of creates a little bit of a swell, if you will. But anyway, so it does work underwater. Just keep in mind that sometimes it could mess with the source blocks. Maybe it has to do with how close to the surface was. Let me see, this one might be just a little bit lower. Yeah, so this one's not that far underneath the surface compared to this one, so maybe that's why it starts sucking the water blocks underneath it, messing everything up. And as far as I know, there's not a way to fix this either, so you got this permanent little sinkhole thing going on in your lake. Alright, so that's going to wrap this video up here. Hopefully this was at least educational, maybe slightly entertaining here. So, overall, if you have traps above the water trying to shoot things into the water, it's not going to work. As long as everything's under the water, aiming at something else that's under the water, everything will work just fine. And yes, to answer the question whether or not you can have things underwater detect things above water, I did test that out. It didn't do anything, so I didn't see there's really any point to put it in the video. It did just the same. Going from one to the other, they can't seem to detect it. So thanks again for all the suggestions on these kinds of things. I do appreciate that. If you have any more, of course, drop those in the comment section down below, and I'll keep those on the list. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already so you don't miss out on future videos. Thank you guys so much for your time. You have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later.